Okay. Hi, my name is Baran Shajari, and I'm a graduate student at McMaster University in Canada. And really, I'm really excited to share with you our work called Bridging the Silos of Digitalization and Sustainability by Twin Transition, which is a multivocal literature review conducted with my supervisor, Dr. Istvan David. So, twin transition is the sweet spot between digital transition and sustainability transition. It's a method of parallel digital and sustainability transition in a mutually supporting way. As you know, everybody nowadays wants to digitalize and integrate digital technologies across their operations because it brings them competitive advantage. But digitalization is also one of the major polluters and have other disadvantages too. So companies have to pay attention to sustainability. So imagine a future where we would have cutting edge AI systems, but no one to trust them, or where we would have the fastest digital tools, but they're powered by unsustainable infrastructure that is damaging our environment every day. So this is the risk we face if we don't get this balance right. But why is it so hard to find a trade-off? Well, as a company, I can do digitalization without sustainability, but that would put huge amount of CO2 in the environment. It can also cause other problems like people not trusting or being afraid of AI or digital technologies, or people creating unskilled workforce for organizations and much more. So sustainability is no longer a nice to have, it's actually top priority in the engineering community right now. Okay, so I could do sustainability without digitalization, but that would mean going back to the Stone Age, and that will solve it. But how far can I go back before I lose competitive advantage? So this is why twin transition is very complex and it's very crucial right now. And to understand twin transition and succeed in twin transition, we need to go just beyond just aligning digital tools and sustainability transitions. We need a deep understanding of the full landscape. We need to understand the clear definitions of twin transition, the sustainability ambitions, the stakeholders that are involved, and the requirements and challenges for successful twin transition. So I had five research questions based on these five requirements. And we conducted an MLR, a multivocal literature review, in our study. So an MLR combines traditional systematic literature review with what's known as gray literature. Gray literature includes sources outside of peer-reviewed academic publishing, such as reports, news articles, presentations, and much more. And as you can see in the graphic over here, we have different tiers of grade literature. And in our study, we only use tier one and tier two literature. So tier one include more credible sources like white papers, government reports, and books, while tier two includes less credible but still moderately credible outlets like annual reports, news articles, presentations, and videos. And we looked at different academic sources. So we looked at IEEE Explore, ACM Library, and more in the computing sources. And we also looked at business and management sources like EBSCO, ProQuest, and more. So why an MLR? Why did we chose to do an MLR? It was because twin transition is still an emerging topic. And that means that the academic research available on it is limited. So it's too early to rely on peer-reviewed literature to understand how this transition is actually unfolding in practice. And at the same time, we found a large number of practitioner sources on twin transition, including reports, white papers, and articles that are written by professionals and organizations that are actively engaged in digital and sustainability transformation. So altogether, we screened about 800 primary artifacts, and from those, we selected 24 that offered a clear and relevant notion of twin transition. So as I mentioned before, we asked these five research questions, but I don't want to bore you with each one. So I want to talk about one of the key takeaways that was the most interesting for me, and that was the sustainability ambition. So why is it about greening? Why is Twin Transition about greening up and by IT and data? Why greening? Because sustainability actually has many other dimensions and is much more complex than that. So as you see, we have environmental sustainability dimension, we have economic, we have social, we even have technical. So why is it only focused on greening when we define it? And if you can see in this graph, we have the different percentages of these dimensions found in the academic literatures, as well as the dimensions coupled together or the dimensions being mentioned individually. And what we see from early on is that environmental sustainability is mentioned in all of the literature, while economic and social are mentioned about two-thirds of it, and they're not mentioned individually at all. So this shows that the current implementations of twin transition are focusing on environmental sustainability. So why is it on environmental and greening? Why is it so one-dimensional? Is it the question is that is this bad? Well, not per se, but it shows that the dimensions like social sustainability are not being recognized. So by looking at these trends, we actually see that these two dimensions are a mere byproduct of environmental concerns, which is not a surprise since the main definition of twin transition also says greening of IT and by data. So it's all about greening. And this is a very detailed, firm evidence, quantitative evidence that this deal is indeed about greening. Well, but should it be? Well, I don't know. This view of social sustainability being an afterthought, essentially a byproduct of environmental priorities, can potentially deepen the global digital divide and also discourage active human involvement in digitalization. One more thing we noticed was that the technical sustainability, which is the fourth dimension of sustainability, is completely missing from the discourse. And this can be potentially due to issues of costly digital technologies, which raises higher concerns about the long-term viabilities of the digital sides of the transition. So, given that twin transition is a top-down legislative strategy promoted by the European Commission, ignoring important dimensions of sustainability like social in such a high-level framework is not just an oversight, it's actually major negligence and could compromise long-term impacts. So, for us to have a truly sustainable and inclusive transformation, these pillars must be integrated from the outset, not just as a secondary consideration. That's exactly what I'm working on, which is trying to put social sustainability in twin transition. So we often hear about green innovations and digital innovation, but not enough about the people who are impacted by these changes. And specifically, I am interested in one dimension of social sustainability, which is trust. And my hypothesis is very simple. It's if we involve more humans continuously in digital systems, we're more likely to trust them more. And if you think about it, if I'm working alongside a machine and collaborating, giving it feedback, I would feel like I would have more control over it and will be more comfortable trusting it. So I call this trust by collaboration. And there's no better example than AI to explain this. So essentially today, AI systems are becoming very embedded in our lives, but only if people trust them enough and not be afraid of it. Specifically, I'm looking at reinforcement learning because it allows us to design systems that learn with humans. And this lets us explore how different styles of collaboration, guidance, and feedback can impact trust in AI. And I'm designing a case study. In my case study, people will interact with AI agents through guided reinforcement learning. And if the results support my hypothesis, that means that if collaboration, that means that collaboration improves trust in digital technologies, which, for example, it improves social sustainability of digital technologies and also further the likelihood of successful twin transition. So to wrap this up, twin transition holds enormous potential, but there is still a crucial gap in how it's understood and implemented. While twin transition aims to bring digitalization and sustainability together, current implementations of it are overly focused on environmental goals, while leaving dimensions like technical and social behind. And our analysis shows this clear imbalance that we're talking about technical challenges and enablers, and yet like overlook the people who are supposed to benefit from these systems. And this disconnect isn't just academics. This mismatch creates serious consequences like rising the cost of twin transition, which can be driven by community resistance, and ultimately a lack of trust and adoption of people towards digitalization. So the bottom line is, if we're serious about building a sustainable future, we need to design systems that reflect the needs and values of all stakeholders and people, not just technical considerations and greening. And that includes involving communities, policymakers, and end users early in the process, and designing systems that are understandable and trusted by everyone. Because sustainability isn't just about clean energy or smart tools, it's actually about people. And without people, the twin transition cannot succeed. Thank you very much. And that will conclude my presentation here.